Welcome to the Purpose-Based Retirement with Casey Weade of Howard Bailey Financial.
Well, good to see you again. I'm Lee Kelso here with Casey Weade, Certified Financial Planner and the President of Howard Bailey Financial. We're going to begin the program tonight taking a look at planning for the long haul. And that means you'll be facing some surprising facts as we talk a little bit about how long you might live after retirement and all the things you need to be prepared to do. We have answers to viewer questions tonight, and then a little bit later on, how to evaluate the person that you're working with to plan for your future and some important questions you need to understand. So let's kick off the program with some news that I came across this weekend, Casey. I saw a story that now age 85 is magical for people because we don't consider ourselves old until we get to age 85. That's a significant shift in our thinking. Imagine that. You might be 20 years beyond the typical retirement age before you think of yourself as being old. That's pretty surprising. I know you pay a lot of attention to the statistics around aging. Where does that put me if I'm at 85 and feeling old?
You say 85 and I can't imagine. I mean, there's so many people that are out there saying, well, I'm never going to make it to 85. I think one of the things that's unique about our business is we get to see everybody of all different ages, what they think, how long they're going to live, and how long they think they're going to live. And I can tell you that over the last 10 years, I've seen people progressively get younger that are coming into our office. It seems to me I'm seeing people retire at younger ages and live longer and longer time frames. And I think a good exercise for you at home is to think about it in this way and ask yourself, next time that you go to a family function, look around at everybody and say, hey, you know what, do we have any relatives that ever lived to age 100? Do we have any relatives that ever lived to 95? What's our oldest relative? And I bet you're going to find that somebody in your family was 90, 95, 100 years old. Somebody's lived to that point, and that may not be immediate family. It might not be your parents, but somebody's done that. And statistically, even a 65-year-old male today is going to live to about 85. A 65-year-old female has a life expectancy of 86.6. And does that mean that you're just going to drop dead at 86? I think we've got to be careful with these statistics because we start to think, oh, well, our life expectancy is 86. We only need to plan on a retirement to age 86. Well, this is statistically bringing in everybody in the entire United States, people that are much unhealthier than what you are today. And that means that 50% of those individuals are going to live beyond age 86.6. And if we're married, something strange happens. We actually live longer. When we're married, the average life expectancy is about 90 years old today. And so that means one of the two of you are going to live to age 90 if you're both age 65. And that, if we take it a step further, a 65-year-old today has one out of four 65-year-olds will live to age 90. 1 out of 10 65-year-olds will live to age 95. And if we go all the way back to 1960, retirement was a lot different back in 1960 than it was today. Think about how many years your parents were retired, or your grandparents maybe were retired. Back in 1960, life expectancy for a newborn was age 70. The world we're in today is different. People are living longer and longer lives. If you're going to retire at age 55 or 60, you need a plan. Because you could be in retirement for a longer period of time than you're actually working. You could be unemployed for longer than you were working. That's a long time horizon, and it comes with it a lot of different risks.
And of course, the number one fear of people is running out of money, living longer than my income.
Yeah, outliving those assets, right? And every time people come into our office, the way that we start to get them to navigate through this and start to think differently is, we start to just reframe the way we think about our money and the way we think about growth and income, because all you've been worried about for the last 10, 15, 20 years is growth on your money. I need to scrape by and save as much as I can, put that in my 401k, and someday maybe I'll have enough that I can retire. And then you get to this time, you finally get to retirement, and you go, wow, I guess it's more than just growth that I have to worry about. Now I'm concerned about taxes. Now I'm concerned about health care. Now I'm concerned about my Social Security, my pension. What option do I choose? What about outliving my income? And that's when we start making that shift from the growth or the return on your money to the return of your money. When people walk into our office, I give them this little slip and they tell me what some of their number one concerns are. And almost everybody circles that little box that says growth. I'm concerned about growth on my retirement nest egg. But in reality, it's not about growth. 90% of the time what we find out is that it's actually about making sure that money lasts forever. It's not growth at all costs, it's cash flow. How can we turn that 5 to 7% return into a 5 to 7% cash flow that we can count on for the rest of our lives? And that's why we have to start thinking about this differently, because if we just do things like you did during your working year, and you take 4% out of that portfolio of stocks and bonds or those mutual funds once you get to retirement, there's been studies done by Vanguard and Morningstar and others economists out there that say you have about a 50% chance of success. 50% odds that you don't go broke during your retirement years by drawing 4% a year and leaving it in stocks and bonds. It just doesn't make any sense to me when we could go out and guarantee income cash flows of 6% plus today and guarantee you're never going to run out of money. That's what people are looking for. That's what you deserve, is retirement that's based on peace.
And over all those years that we're retired and have no real income other than what we provided for ourselves, you've got to be thinking about inflation during that point in time.
Yeah, even scarier, we start thinking about inflation. And I don't want to overstate this risk because, I think there's been great studies down there. David Blanchett and Morningstar did a study that showed that, you have your go-go years, your slow-go years, and your no-go years. You actually spend less on those different expenses you have during your retirement based around entertainment and things like that. In general, those basic living expenses and those discretionary expenses go down throughout your retirement years, but there's still that risk that we go back to the 60s and 70s. And guess what? Back in the 60s and 70s, when Jimmy Carter was in office and we had double-digit inflation years, what happened? We didn't have a stock market that made double digits. The stock market was flat for 17 years. So stocks aren't always the answer. You have to have hard assets producing real income. And it's not just about the inflation and your basic living expenses, because what are you going to be spending money on when you're 75, 85, 90 years old?
It's going to be healthcare.
Healthcare, right?
Right.
That's the inflation we have to be concerned about. Healthcare costs are rising at about 6% a year today, on average, okay? Now, the last few years, it's been around 2 to 3% on average, but 6% is the long-term average increase in cost of healthcare. That's about double the rate of inflation. That means that the cost of your medication, your $100 a month medication, 12 years from now, it's going to be $200 a month. 24 years from now, it's going to be $400 a month. Now we're talking about $5,000 a year. That's a pretty good chunk that's being spent every single month out of your nest egg. What about potential costs that are over and above what your prescriptions and doctor visits might be? What about nursing home costs? Those costs in Indiana are about $7,000 a month on average for the average nursing home. That's $80,000 a year roughly. Those costs are increasing at 4.5% a year. That means every 15 years that's going to double. So $80,000 today, 15 years from now it's $160,000. 30 years from now it's $320,000 on an annual basis. What's that going to do to your nest egg if you got $320,000 on an annual basis 30 years from now coming out for nursing home, home health care, assisted living? This is why we need to understand our options. You have to understand your options when it comes to these things. For instance, I had a couple that I worked with today that had $250,000 sitting in cash, making less than 1% a year. We're able to put that $250,000 somewhere where it was liquid, making 4 or 5% a year. So now we've quadrupled their rate of return, and if they ever need long-term care, that's going to kick out $450 a day for the rest of their lives as long as they need their care, and that covers all of their long-term care need without having to pay a long-term care premium, and they didn't even know those options were out there because their broker didn't have that option. That's why it's important that you work with an independent advisor that can bring these options to you and give you a decision that you need to make. Not for them. It's for their duty to educate you in your options and you to make the right decision.
After this conversation, it's a perfect time to let you know about our special offer tonight. For the next 10 people who call right now, Casey's offering a complimentary financial review of your entire financial and retirement plan. It's an opportunity to get you the education that's so important so that you can make the best decisions about your money for yourself and your family moving forward. So for the next 10 callers at 482-9559, Casey and the staff at Howard Bailey Financial will make time on their calendars to meet with you and give you your very own purpose-based retirement. So call now at 482-9559. Questions from viewers coming up next. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm a certified financial planner practitioner. Are you one of the lucky few that will still carry a pension into retirement? Is your company offering you a buyout or a lump sum pension option? If you're seeking independent, unbiased advice from an advisor that can inform you about all of your options, then look no further. You deserve a lifetime of financial confidence due to a lifetime of income. And at Howard Bailey Financial, it's our goal to help you achieve that. If you'd like to see how a CFP professional can best serve you, give us a call today.
You need a plan for retirement to create the lifestyle you've always dreamed of. The first step is to tune into the Purpose-Based Retirement Radio Hour with your hosts, Casey Weade and Marshall Johnson, every Saturday morning at 11 and Sunday afternoon at 1 on 1190 WOWO and 107.5 FM.
Each week, viewers write Casey with questions, and some of them we pull out and bring to the television so you can hear them as well, and that's what we're going to do tonight. Let's start tonight with Dave. Dave, what is your question for us tonight?
Yeah, my wife has been sick for a couple of years, and until recently I was able to take care of her myself at home. However, this year I was forced to move her into a facility. I've never worried about money, but now I have to draw $9,000 a month out of our IRAs to pay for her care. My wife is only 71, and I'm afraid we'll run out of money. I've heard you talk about guaranteed income, and now that sounds great. Will that work for us?
Well, Dave, I'm sorry to hear about your wife. Could guaranteed income work? Yeah, that could be a solution, but I don't want you to go there first. I don't think you need to dive right into going to see a financial advisor right away. I think this is going to take a team. This is a serious problem, and if anybody out there, if you've got a family member that's in this position, or if you're in this position, I encourage you to call not just a certified financial planner, but also an elder law specialist that can give you some real good legal advice. And Dave, I don't know, maybe you've sat down with someone in the past that was an attorney that said maybe they couldn't help you when it came to Medicaid planning or elder law planning, but today the law is so much different. The Medicaid program's expanded so much over the last few years. The laws have changed so dramatically that it's really important that you bring together a team. And that's why when we have a situation like this, Dave, yes, we could guarantee income for that. I mean, $9,000 a month at your age, it might take about $1 million portfolio in order to guarantee, or maybe a million and quarter portfolio in order to guarantee $100,000 a year for the rest of your life. That's a lot of income, and that would take care of your problem, right? We'd know we'd never run out of enough money in order to pay for that care. But what I would rather see is, I'd rather see you working with an attorney that can maybe make that care cost half of that, or maybe very little payments actually coming out of your pocket. Maybe it's a couple $1,000s a month instead of $10,000 a month. And those types of things are available out there. You just have to be working with an advisor that's going to put your needs ahead of their own, meaning that might mean bringing together an attorney to have this discussion with the two of you, and have a three-way discussion in order to make the best decision for yourself and your wife moving forward. You know, we do this all the time, and this is why I always say it's important for us to have a plan before we actually get to that point. If we would have sat down when you're 50, 60 years old and put together a plan for this, by the time you're 70, you wouldn't have these concerns. Those expenses pop up. You've got a plan and a risk covered. That's what the purpose-based retirement's all about. We look at your risk. What about that healthcare risk? Well, let's cover that in case that happens. What about inflation? Let's put a plan together specifically for that. What about income? Let's put a plan together for that. What about stock market risk? We'll put a plan together for that. We cover each one of those bases. So no matter what happens, whatever risk you face during your retirement years, we've got a plan for that, and that's going to help you sleep better at night. Dave, thanks for your question, and I wish you and your wife the best of luck.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. We are going to reach out now to Janie and your question for Casey. Janie, go ahead.
Thank you for taking my call. Well, I'm 55 and I've never invested in the stock market. We've done quite well with over $1 million in our retirement accounts at work and almost as much in our CDs at the bank. But I'm getting increasingly frustrated with the low interest rates. And my 401k advisor at work keeps saying I'm too conservative. Casey, what would you recommend?
Well, Janie, Congratulations.
Yeah,
At
no
55, saving over $1 million. I think,
great.
depending on what statistic you're looking at today, that's anywhere from the average retiree save somewhere between $50,000 and $150,000 once they get to that age. So that's just a fantastic job, and I think it's a real testament to the philosophy and the things that we're always preaching, the things you can read about in my book, and that is that you don't need to take risks, Janie. You don't have to jump into the stock market if you don't want to. I think maybe you need to. I shouldn't say that. Maybe you have more income needs than you can get by with just getting a decent fixed rate of return. I mean, think for yourself, if you're getting 3 to 5% a year, that's $30,000, $50,000 a year. Throw in Social Security and pension. Maybe you don't even need to touch your principal in order to maintain your retirement. I've got couples that I've met in the past. I had a couple that I met that were from Huntington area. I met them a couple of years ago. Awesome people, really hardworking. They average about $35,000 a year in annual income between the two of them. And I said, so how much do you have in your savings account, your emergency fund? They said, well, we've got a pretty good amount. We're good. And I said, well, is that $50,000 or $100,000? They said, well, it's about $1 million.
Wow.
And they just built that away in their savings account. They never even put any money in their 401k. Never owned a stock. I've got a couple that I just implemented a plan for just the other day that have never owned a stock, a bond, a mutual fund. Everything's in money market accounts in their 401ks. It's in CDs, just like Janie here. They've never taken any risk, and they're getting into be about 60 probably, and they're making about $150,000 a year, and he's only been making 6 figures for the last decade, and at this time in his life, he's saved over $3 million. But all these different accounts, like Janie here, just getting frustrated with low interest rates, she's averaging a rate of return that's probably less than 1%, like this couple I'm sharing with you. They were returning less than 1% a year. We were able to put them in fixed accounts guaranteeing 3 to 5%. That tripled, if not quadrupled, their average rate of return without them having to take on any risk. Now, I have suggested that they take on a little bit different approach, and we could easily conservatively get 4 to 6, maybe 5 to 7%. Yeah, I would have liked to see that, but we didn't have to do that. I mean, by guaranteeing them 3 to 5%, it really put them in a place that's going to change their lives, change the life of their family, change the lives once they pass away. We're leaving a phenomenal legacy behind for the next 2 generations, if not beyond that. So really, Janie, take your time. Don't take risk if you're not comfortable with it. Do whatever it is that helps you sleep better at night. That's what it's all about.
Wow, Janie, and super job. Way to go. If you have a question and you'd like to get some information, you can always reach out to the Howard Bailey team at info@howardbailey.com, and we might read your question here on the air. But heck, why do that? If you have a question, there's an easy way to get an answer a lot more quickly, and it's because of our special offer tonight. For the next 10 people who call right now, Casey's offering a complimentary financial review of your entire financial and retirement plan. It's an opportunity to get that education you need about your money so you can make the best decisions as you move forward toward retirement. So for the next 10 callers at 482-9559, Casey and the staff at Howard Bailey Financial are willing to make some time on the calendar to visit with you and give you your very own purpose-based retirement. The number again is 482-9559. I hope you'll call right now. Here's our question of the day. How many financial advisors are there in the United States? Is it over 39,000, 70,000? What do you think? Maybe 325,000 or more? The answer when we come back.
You need a plan for retirement to create the lifestyle you've always dreamed of. The first step is to tune into the Purpose-Based Retirement Radio Hour with your hosts, Casey Weade and Marshall Johnson, every Saturday morning at 11 and Sunday afternoon at 1 on 1190 WOWO and 107.5 FM.
When you have confidence in your retirement future, you can live the life you've always imagined. Because of planning, you now have time to reflect on the wonderful memories of your life. You and your spouse finally have the luxury of leisure time together. To spend fun times with your grandkids, sharing the joy of their excitement about life. smiling at the thought of quality time with your children and of picking up the check. At last, you have time to breathe and rekindle the love of your life. Why? Because you imagined what could be. You planned for retirement. So today, you own your future.
Join us on Sundays at 1 on News Talk 1190 WOWO for the Purpose-Based Retirement Hour with Casey Weade and Marshall Johnson.
There is a change happening in the world of financial investments and advising, and that's why we came up with our question of the day. How many financial advisors are there in the United States? We offered you several different choices ranging from 39,000 to over 300,000, and Casey has the correct answer for you.
Well, people often say there are a lot of financial advisors in the world, and that is true. There's about 285,000 financial advisors today. That's C for you, sitting there at home. The answer is C today, 285,000. Now, just a few years ago, that answer would have been 325,000 during 2008. And so that number's dropped by about 12% over the last several years. And given the average age of financial advisors today, and over 50% of advisors being over the age of 55, the average advisor being around 57, they expect that over the next 10 years, we're going to see about 100,000 advisors retire over the next 10 years. That's about a third of the current amount of advisors that are out there today. And all these different advisors, it gets very difficult and very confusing to determine what's the difference between this advisor and that advisor. And one of the things that you can do is you can actually figure this out for yourself before you even walk through the door of that financial advisor's office. Figure out if they have a fiduciary standard or a suitability standard. Figure out what types of products can they represent? Are they independent? Can they represent the full range of financial products that are out there in the world today? Do they have your interests ahead of their own? And I want to give you that today. I want to share with you today how not all advisors are the same. All advisors aren't the same because they have different sets of credentials, different sets of licenses that allow them to do different things and have different levels of education at the same time. So let's talk through this a little bit. There's two main types of advisors that you're going to run into. Financial advisors that can offer securities fall into two different categories. Either they're registered representatives or they're investment advisors. A registered representative is just like it sounds. A registered representative represents products that are registered as securities. And so they're representing products, they're selling those products, and they're selling those products using two licenses, a Series 7 and 63, and they fall under a standard of care called a suitability standard. Now, a suitability standard means what, Lee?
It means that that investment is suitable for your circumstance.
Right. There's nothing wrong with that, right? It's suitable. It's okay. It may not be the best thing for you, but it may not be. It's still okay. And we could do this in a way that says, let's say you walk into your advisor's office and there's three different types of mutual funds they could offer. They could offer you American Funds Growth Fund, Fidelity's Growth Fund, or Vanguard's Growth Fund. And you walk out of that office with the American Funds Growth Fund. Why'd you walk out with the American Funds Growth Fund when the Vanguard Fund's got a lower cost, lower expense ratio, it's been better performing, a lower turnover ratio, you're looking at a better product with a Vanguard, but a lower cost and better performance, but you ended up with American Funds because it's suitable. It's okay, it wasn't the best thing for you, but the company that sold it to you got paid more for selling that product than Vanguard was willing to pay them, right? So that falls under a suitability standard. Their compensation is typically commission based, and so when they buy and sell securities, they receive a commission. When they put you into an A-share mutual fund, they receive a commission on the front end for selling that mutual fund, which represents an inherent conflict of interest, right? Now they have an incentive to buy and sell securities throughout the year. I met a gentleman that was put into unit investment trusts at the beginning of 2015. Those didn't perform real well. They were moved out of those unit investment trusts into A-share mutual funds. He was charged 2 big commissions right off the top, and he lost money both times. I don't want you to work in that type of environment. You should be working with someone that has some skin in the game. The other type of advisor is an investment advisor. So ask them what kind of license they carry. Do they carry a 763 or a 65? A Series 65 license means that that advisor has a standard of care called a fiduciary duty, the legal responsibility to put your needs ahead of their own. They have to choose that Vanguard fund, not that American fund. They have to justify that to the regulators. And their compensation is fee-based, meaning the more you make, the more they make. When you lose money, they lose income. They've got some skin in the game. Now, those are the 2 types of securities advisors. So if you're going to take risk with your life savings, you're going to work with someone on this side of things. But once you get to retirement, you want somebody that can provide you with some guarantees and protect you from some of those risks, such as outliving your money. You might want to set up your own private pension, for instance. You might want some guaranteed income that you can't outlive. Well, these securities advisors can't give that to you, so you need someone that not only holds this license, but also is a licensed insurance agent that's licensed for life and health insurance, carries a fiduciary standard of care, and could be paid in the way of commission or in fee. Their products are life, health, and annuity. A complete advisor is not going to just put all your money at risk. And you may be sitting there going, well, everything's at risk. Why wouldn't they offer me this guaranteed option? Why can't I get 4 or 5% in a fixed account? Well, maybe that's because they only represent securities companies. And if you want to find someone that takes that a step further, didn't just run out and pick up a license to call themselves a financial advisor, find yourself a certified financial planner practitioner that has the education, has undergone examination, has the experience, and the ethics to give you what you're looking for during retirement. We wouldn't go into a doctor and have them operate on our knee if they didn't have DR before our name. Right. Let's make sure that our financial advisor is also well educated and has gone through thorough vetting. What about what you should do if you need an advisor? Make sure you understand their philosophy, their compensation, their licensing, the education, and conflicts of interest.
Well, you know, I've been doing this program with Casey for what, about 2 years now? And something that I've learned is there is a tremendous amount to know, and you need a professional on your team. And I wouldn't talk to anybody but a certified financial planner, and I hope you feel the same way. We have a special offer right now for the next 10 people who are willing to call the office and ask for a complimentary financial review of their entire retirement plan. It's an opportunity so that you can learn about your money and make the best decisions for yourself moving forward. So, for the next 10 callers who phone right now at 482-9559, Casey and the staff at Howard Bailey will make some time on their calendar to meet with you and give you your very own purpose-based retirement. Again, that number is 482-9559. We hope you pick up the phone and call right now. And if you'd like to see a certified financial planner, you can ask a question to a CFP. You can send the email to info@howardbailey.com. We will see you next week.